Absolute Wonder Woman has the most massive sword in all of fiction. And you know what else is massive? My love for Jesus Christ. Anyways, today we're covering the 4th issue of Absolute Wonder Woman, and like everything else coming out of this universe, this issue is exceptional. With that being said, the last issue ended off with Diana casting a spell that literally made the entire population of Gateway City deaf for a brief period of time so that they couldn't hear a sound emitted by the Tetracide that would force them to sacrifice themselves to it. And this issue picks up right where we left off, with Diana and Steve visiting a local witch named Gia, asking her for various ingredients so Diana could cast a strong enough spell to regenerate her arm. And at first Gia was panicked because now that she was hearing, she was certain she'd fall victim to the Tetracide's death sound, but Diana assured her there was no need to worry, stating that she put a protective spell around the building so they could communicate safely. After that, she began explaining why she needed her arm back. Her prosthetic arm was a very powerful substitute for it, but if she wanted to stand a chance against a creature like the Tetracide, she needed to take all precautionary measures because even at her best, she wasn't confident she'd make it out of this battle victorious. So Gia began rummaging around her shop, gathering as many of the ingredients that she had, but in the midst of doing so, Diana revealed that the spell also required a lot of blood, which meant that Steve, Gia, and her sister needed to get ready to donate some from their own bodies. As we move forward, Diana eventually rubbed the blood all over herself, conjuring a powerful magical force that struck her in the chest like a shot of lightning. But we don't get to see if this effort paid off right away, because after that the story jumps over to a flashback with the goddess of magic Hecate paying Diana's mother Circe a visit in hell because Circe began having nightmarish visions of Diana's future that were making her sick to her stomach. During their interaction, Circe expressed her frustration with the goddess, telling her that if she really loved and cared for her, she never would have banished her to hell and forced her to raise a child that wasn't her own. So Hecate explained why she chose to do so, stating that a great and powerful game was afoot and that Diana's role was so important in it that Circe needed to make this sacrifice. Only somebody like her would be able to raise the hero they needed. So basically what this all comes down to, at least in the long run, is the fate of the Absolute Universe. Hecate is sort of referencing the fact that in order for this universe to survive and overcome darkness, it's absolutely critical that they go to the extremes and make practically unbearable sacrifices time and time again because it's rooted in the power of Darkseid. And without Diana being raised the way she has been, their chances would essentially be slim to none. The main problem with that for Circe though is now that she's grown so close to Diana, she realizes how lonely she's gonna be in hell once she's gone. After that, the story jumps back over to present day, revealing that Diana was able to emerge from the spell with both of her arms. But immediately upon looking outside, she realized that because the population of Gateway wasn't sacrificing itself to the Tetracide advanced into the city to take matters into its own hands. So she began preparing for battle by flying over to the ocean and retrieving her Athena blade, but because the Tetracide was so focused on terrorizing the city still, she needed to think of a way to draw it back out to the ocean, resulting in her pulling out a potion from her satchel, commanding it to become what the Tetracide loved most, and then smashing it against the boardwalk. Now, what the Tetracide loved most was death and torture, typical monster crap. So the boardwalk began filling with screams of pain and agony, which was just enough to lure it into Diana's trap. And Diana's trap is probably one of the most badass things I've seen in a comic in a while. You see, her Athena blade was already big, like just as big as Guts or Cloud Sword, if not bigger. But in order for it to be able to slay a beast as big as a skyscraper, it needed to be like 1,000 times bigger. So yet again, she utilized her experience with magic to turn the blade into the biggest hunk of metal I've ever seen in a comic, and honestly the biggest blade I've ever seen in fiction, then blasting off into the sky with it, and then slamming it so hard into the Tetracide's body that it just straight up split in half. And I would not swim in that ocean anymore, because now it's filled with all this stank ass fluid from the Tetracide's organs and crap. With that being said though, sadly that's when this issue comes to an end, but if you want to see what happens next, let me know in the comments down below.